She reminds me of my mother, a 21-year-old version of my mother. And while I stood in that hotel room watching her smoke, I felt like my father. For that one moment, I gazed at my mother through the eyes of my father, and I understood why they were married. I had that look on my face. You know the one the old man used to throw at Ma in the early days, the one that told her that there was no other place in the world that he'd rather be. A look of true love. And I felt like I was thrown back to the 60s, peace and love and drop acid, not bombs. And for that one moment, I saw a family and a house and a dog and a washer and dryer. I saw my future wife looking at me while puffing her smoke. And her smile, her smile, it let me know that I was the one, that we were the future, and that our parents were right, and that we should have kids, and that we can find true love in the strangest of places. When you're looking at a girl lying in a hotel bed and you realize that she ain't nothing but a stranger trying to pay the bills.
All right, Jay, thanks for sitting down with me.
You got it, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. It is exciting. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. So you got a new book coming out.
I do.
Can you tell me about it a little bit?
Sure. It's what I like about this book is it's a collection of stories and prose poems. What I really like about it is that it spans 25 years of my life. And so, I started writing at a younger age, mid-20s. And so as I look back over my 20s, 30s, 40s, and even into my 50s, there are different times. And these works out of this book kind of represent different times in my life. And so it's a very cool collection. And I'm very proud of it.
So you said 25 years. Why now? What's the reasoning behind putting this out today?
That's a good question, because when I fell in love with writing in my early 20s, but I was single and I didn't have a family yet, and I hadn't really gone to college yet, but I fell in love with the process of writing, and I took a stab at writing a novel, and I started writing poetry, but then I met a girl, all right, like we all do, and I felt as though I had to make a choice. I could either be a family man or I could be a writer, and I just really didn't feel like I could be both. And so when my kids came around and the family life came around, I embraced that best I could, but I also continued to write. And so I did a lot of writing about my children and the life that I was living as a family man. But it wasn't until much later, after my kids were grown, that I found the time to really be able to turn my attention back to my writing the way that I knew I needed to. And so I'm really grateful that I've had the opportunity over the last few years to really hone in and put together not only this collection but some other works as well. So it's the summertime, 1979, and the grass is turning green again. Long sweaters are sleeveless again as the children dust off their swimsuits again to play and swim. The window unit AC needs fixing and the lawn needs weeding, and she won't stop sneezing 'cause the pollen and the grass needs to be cut. She got skin peeling and sandals feeling great under the soles of her white feet as she smiles and digs in the sand. Dad's got 5 days off, spring cleaning, summertime feeding the ducks by the lake, and Mother claims that she must lose the weight of the godforsaken winter. Sister's got a date, first time in a long time. In the mirror, Mom says she looks fine, and the blush on her cheeks bleeds through when he comes a-knocking and Dad puts him on the spot, 'cause this is summertime. Long legs gone short with the tan line, and the shovels and the pails and the castles made. She turns 5 next week, and Mama reads in her beach chair. Dad's out with the mower, elbow grease all the way up his arms. He's getting slower and slower with each passing year. And now I'm sitting here, watching this grass turn green again. Dad died 7 years ago. Sister's trying to wean her third. And Mama calls on the Sundays, sometimes on the Mondays. But this grass is turning green again. Summer's in bloom again. And the kids are picking the asses in their suits again. 'Cause this is summertime. The sunshine, the beach time. And it's been a long time since those days, those yesterdays. They just come a-knocking on me this time of year. with the fresh cut scent in the air as I stare at the kids building castles in the sand. They just come back to me this time of year, green grass growing, and I too am getting slower and slower with each passing year.
So with the book coming out, like, what do you want people to know about it before they like crack it open and start reading? Like, is there anything that they should really know about this before they dive into it?
Well, so I teach literature at a couple different colleges, and one of the things that I always tell my students is when it comes to poetry, like we'll sit down and we'll study poetry and we'll read it and write it. And one of the first things I tell my students is if you're going to read a poem, read it out loud so that way you can hear it. And you can hear the tempo, you can hear the voice and the beat and the rhythm. And you can only really hear that, though, if you speak it out loud. And I personally think my approach has been there are some poems that are meant to be written, and then there are other poems that are meant to be spoken. And I think this collection, The Lost Words, it has a good blend of both. Poems that were written to be read, poems that were written that were meant to be performed. And so the real challenge for me when putting together this book was to put those spoken poems down on the page the way that I want you to read it the way that I would speak it. And it's a really challenging endeavor. And so I had to really spend a lot of time with that. And I don't know if a reader is going to read it with the same energy, the same pauses, the same that I would. But that's the intention there. And I don't know. I guess we'll see how it comes out.
Yeah, cool.
I'm sitting on the cellar stairs again because I can't sleep. And I'm smoking one or two cigarettes that I got. I got $5.64 in my pocket, and I'm thinking about spending it on another pack of smokes. I don't think I'll sleep tonight. It's late, and the cigarette store will be open shortly. And I've been thinking about life and how quick things change, people dying, lovers now crying, and little kids growing old before my eyes. And I smoke another smoke because the cellar stairs ain't changing any. Take your time in growing up, little boy. Just take your time. Because the cellar stairs will still be here when you start spending your allowance on cigarettes. You know, I got this uncle living on the shores of New England, and he sits in a toll booth all day taking money from people. I got a mother in bed with the flu and a crazy redheaded sister raising two kids on her own. I got a father who's dead now, and a grandmother who can't remember names all too well, and once knee-high cousins are now working Wall Street and doing Coast Guard stuff. You know, the days are really weeks when you think about it. And I'm walking through years like a little kid running late to class. I try to stuff all that I can into each day because at the end of the year I'll say, wow, can't believe I'm 50. And what the hell have I done with my life? I've smoked a hell of a lot of cigarettes on the cellar stairs of tomorrow as I contemplate yesterday and worry about today, but time is like my family, always running forward and never sitting still. Time is money, says my uncle, and I can hear my father through his voice, and I got $5.64 in my pocket, and it's almost time to get some smokes. You know, my niece is 2 and my nephew is 9, and he laughs at farts and bum jokes and little sisters who fall down, and I look at him and say, don't ever start smoking. Don't ever sit in my spot on the cellar stairs, because I spent enough time here, and look where it's gotten me. My mother's still sick with the flu, and God bless my grandmother. And like a little kid, I'm running late to the cigarette store to buy myself some more cellar stair time. I don't think I'll sleep tonight. It's late. And please, little boy, take your time in growing up. Just take your time. Because cellar stairs will still be here long, long after I'm gone. If I sit down to write a longer work, like a novel, you know, I spend a lot of time trying to figure out the voice of the characters. I try to spend time walking a mile or two in the characters' shoes. I try to really spend time developing the scenes and the scenarios, like the sequence of events that go into making a larger work, a novel. That is a very time-consuming process for me. Whereas with a poem is very different in my eyes, my experience. Like I could take one emotion, one event, and I could really look closely at that. I could really blow it up and spend a whole poem just writing about one singular event or one singular emotion. And so my approach to writing a poem versus that of a longer work, it's very different. I mean, I'm the same writer, I'm the same mind at work, but my approach, it varies. And I like to think as time has gone on that I have, there's a lot of different poetic elements, a lot of poetic devices, and whether it be a rhyme scheme or whether it be like alliteration or tempo or pace. And I'm very mindful of that when I'm approaching a poem or a piece of prose that I want to have a specific beat or rhythm or a specific sound. When I sit down to write a novel, I surprise myself sometimes at how often I try to borrow and blend some of those poetic elements into a longer narrative. And so, yeah, the two genres of writing are very different, but I do see how they have some common ground where I use tools and techniques from both with each type of writing. Semicolon. We walk around my block in a circle and we look at all the landscape lawns and flowers about ready to burst their buds, and then we skip and we laugh on the asphalt before another house or tree or car or barking dog catches our attention, and we don't hesitate to talk about how we didn't do this with past lovers, and we don't shy away from naked bodies and naked souls, because the story we read today on my couch told us so many things about us that we didn't even think to ask, because the time has slipped us by at the beach and the market and the meeting where Chris asked me to tell the story of Ronnie that time in Florida when he made me walk to the clubhouse, and you giggled as you reached for my hand because you had to leave soon and prepare soon for another week of school soon and another stretch of missing me for 5 days. And I prolonged the end of that story to Chris because I like your hand on mine and we're good people, just like in that story. And sometimes we stay angry longer than we should at the wrong people at the wrong time, but you don't care because you understand that I'm a man and a man loves a woman just like we love each other right now. And it's all fucked up what Colin said about divorce, because I use a spoon for my ice cream with you, and I use a fork for the steak that you marinated with love, and we use knives to butter our bread, and granite tables are cut from slabs in Dorset, Vermont. And then there's you and me together at your car door on a Sunday night with full bellies, and it's time to go and exhale and recount all the events of the weekend as you drive back to Hull and listen to the sounds of your heart going pitter-patter, because we read Cathedral together and we sat in a Duxbury church together and we cried together on my couch. Semicolon. But you slept in the other room. And this is what we think about, because every rose has a thorn and every person has a weakness, just like Sammy and A&P, and just like me as a distant father, and just like you with your fourth step about men. And we try really fucking hard to overlook all the what ifs and the scars from the past, but they eat at us sometimes after a long weekend together and a long sentence describing all the peaks and valleys we've overcome and the forks in the road that will surely follow. And you will sleep well tonight, because we have laughed and we have cried all in the same day. And isn't it beautiful that we're clean now and believe now and love now and tire now that the sun has gone down and you've gone back to the place of you while I settle back into the place of me. I don't write every single day. I kind of binge. When I get into a project, I like to put everything else aside and I just like to work on that. And I don't want to have any other distractions or any other responsibilities that might pull me away from the project that I'm working on. And so, again, I felt a real tug of war. Like, I know I wanted to invest that time with my children and my wife and the family that we were establishing. And I'll be honest, I think that's one of the reasons why I migrated to poetry a lot. Because I could start and finish a poem in an hour when the kids are in the tub or, going to bed, versus that of spending 2,000-3,000 hours on trying to put together a novel. And so, again, this collection, The Lost Words, it's a collection of stories that range from anywhere from a page long to, I think, 30 pages. So there's a nice mix of different stories. But then there's also these prose poems that, again, I could sit down in an afternoon and write one or two of those. And so I fell in love with writing I didn't want to abandon it, and I'm happy that I never did abandon it. I was able to raise my kids and still continue to produce the written word, and so yeah, I'm happy about that.
He holds her hand, it seems, always from above, because he is maybe 3/4 to an inch taller than she, and she swings their arms always from below, with fingers in between fingers, never cupping their hands. It appears to me they could be young people in love. Maybe one day soon he'll pop the question or she'll run away. But I gander it be love that swings their fingers in between fingers' hands and elbows and arms. And I suppose he'll always hold her hand from above, and her his from below, 3/4 to an inch taller, because it fits better that way. Fitting as in when they walk in cadence, stroll, it seems, downstairs in cadence, laughing. I remember those days. And they, not even knowing that I follow them, silently, watching, because I'm the old man on the Isle of Jekyll, walking the beach with my 50-plus-year bride. And fingers in between fingers feels better for me and her. And I gander that boy will soon ask for her hand in something more than a stroll, because the laughter in the boyish blue jeans, sagging butt, dirty knees, the look in her eyes, the swing of her elbow, loving sigh. The sun has now risen, and I, the old man walking the Isle of Jekyll, kiss my 50-plus-year bride. And I do not hide my love for her, fingers in between fingers, even though gravity stole our figures, now heavy to the floor, wrinkles in our face, no more youth on the outside, frail back and left leg is my bride, walking cane for me from the right side. And I do not believe these kids stole our youth. You see, the truth comes from the mossy limbs of Jekyll, and the wind on her face now freckled with dots of the sun, and stars in her eyes, because her saggy butt, dirty knee blue jean boy always takes her hand from above, never from below. Fingers in between fingers, I know. Because we were once that age, youth, no bars on the cage, no canes for my right side or limps for her left side, because the trees upon Jekyll and the breeze twitchin' her freckle, and I remember, while kissin' my 50-plus-year bride, the pride that maybe she could one day, I gander, be my bride.
We were talking a little bit earlier about like the art of doing nothing, and like,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I think about like a lot of times I'll go to the airport a little early and just sit there and watch people.
Yeah.
You know, and as I watch them, these stories evolve in my mind about, you know, if I knew this person, what we would be doing or
Sure.
whatever. And earlier when you read Purple Ass, like that moment and like so much expanding upon it I could
Yeah.
relate to was amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about like how that came about? Or
Yeah, sure. There are two poems that come to mind that we were, reading and discussing a little earlier. Is that, one of them is Purple and Ass, and the other one is Sad Alleyways of the Cape, and they're both extremely different thematically. Sad Alleyways of the Cape. I was there in the emergency room when my wife was giving birth to our first daughter, and I'm standing there and I'm just so overwhelmed by the moment. I'm holding my daughter in my hands for the first time, and as soon as I knew that she was going to be okay and that she's in the world, and I gave her back to her mother, and I had to leave, and I went down into the hospital lobby, and I grabbed a pen and I found a piece of paper, and I just went out to the lobby and I just wrote that down. And it all came to me right in the moment. And I don't think I've ever revised that. The way that it is laid out now is the way that it came to me right in the moment. Grandma stands quiet in the corner taking notes. She rereads them before writing again. Father stands firm as mother shakes under her covers. Grandma writes again. Generations of birth, I suppose, and mother puts chin to chest and pushes. Grandma steps closer. Push, my love, push, says father firm as a friend looks on from the corner. Angels are everywhere. The eyes of mother tell the tale of synchronicity, like baptism, like ducks crossing the road in traffic as children point and smile with grace. Mother sweats as father wipes her brow. Grandma smiles in the sunshine through windows. The moment is everywhere. Kiss the day in the south, dance in the northern hills, sing in the west, play hopscotch in the side alleyways of the Cape. Do it before it rains. Make love in the grass. Stare deeply into the eyes of what's soon to be the purpose of living. Father cries above mother as she once again pushes life and death through her loins and out her bottom. Everyone watches. Even the angels stand still, sprinkling dust on the fingertips of those at work. And for that one moment, the south and the west merge with the north as the sea turns to glass and little girls stare into the sun. The fast-moving world pauses and blinks. New life brings moisture to the eyes as tears roll on mother's face, and father now knows what it means to be in all places at once. The angels smile in the grass. The friend in the corner begins to cry. Grandma sighs joy in her lips, and mother watches as father cuts the cord. All the world watches as this crackle of life rings out over the hills. All the world smiles, and Grandma writes again. That's one example. And then the other one, Purple and S. It's great. I was visiting a friend in New York City, and I had to drive back to Boston, and it's easier to drive in the middle of the night back from New York to Boston to avoid the traffic. And it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm leaving New York, and I'm at a red light, and off to the street corner, there is a woman of the night, let's say, and she's standing there, and she's just completely head to toe in purple. And so I'm looking at her, and I'm at the red light for maybe 5-8 seconds, and turns green, and I'm driving. But the image of that woman was in my mind for the next 4 hours as I drove back to Boston. And so I just kind of created this scenario, imagine if sort of thing. And I got home, I went to bed, and I woke up the next day, and a cup of coffee, and I just sat down and I wrote that. Pretty much it's been unchanged to this day, but that was just the image that I conjured in my mind as to what that story would be like for that woman, and if I ever met her, perhaps.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Funny. And so she's standing there on Front Street in between kid boys looking for wine and a woman sneaking tricks for a pack of smokes, and she got purple all over. Her legs, shiny, tight, purple whatevers, swinging that lavender purse of hers like she's got something inside. And I want to see. I want to touch that purple ass of hers. And I say, you ever been to Coney Island? Did you ever read any Ferlinghetti and the What About Johnny N's ass? Because you got ass like Johnny N, and I bet all the gringos chase you around. And so she buries those purple nails of hers into that lavender bag, pulling out a cigarette case, purple, and I light it for her as she touches my hand and exhales and says, so you want to take me to Coney Island and touch my ass? And oh my God, that ass of hers. I want to drive it to Montana. I want to shoot purple stars towards the bighorn sky. I want to have purple kids that eat Peruvian purple potatoes. I want to watch her walk in those heels and sway. I want to light 7,000 of those smokes. And she says, you ever lay down in purple satin sheets? And oh my God, my eyes roll back deep into my head as I clench my fists. I want to sleep in purple sheets. I want to try on those pants, try on those shoes, paint my nails. I want to be purple on Front Street right now. I want to drink purple wine and eat purple grapes and sing songs about love. Because I'm in love with her right now. And what's your name anyhow? Because I'm in the purplest of purple kind of loves. The purple at the end of the sky kind of love. And what's your name, honey? Because I really want to know. And you know something else? That purple ass of yours is way better than Johnny N's ass ever was. And I want to touch it. Please, can I touch it? Miss, sorry I don't know your name. Can I touch that ass of yours? Can I try on those pants? Maybe paint my nails? Because the world's all gone purple over the last 5 minutes, and all I'm seeing is purple and ass, and purple and ass, and purple and ass. So you want to go to Coney Island, or better yet, can I give you $20 for a piece of that ass?
I can really feel that in your writing, but I can also relate to this theme of fatherhood, right?
Yeah.
And manhood, and how you change
Yeah.
over time, and
Yeah.
all these things are really present in this book.
Yeah.
Why are those the themes that you focus on, do you think?
I think that I could spend hours answering that, but I think, in a nutshell, I came up in an environment that was, my father was around a little bit when I was really young, but then my dad left, and so I was raised by my mom and my dad. That relationship was empty for years, and I didn't really have a dad in my day-to-day life, and so when I became a dad, that's when I embraced that challenge. And I don't want to. My dad wasn't a bad guy, but he just wasn't there for a lot of the stuff. And so I remember making the pact to myself: I'm gonna be here with these kids. I'm gonna love them to the best of my ability, and I'm gonna give them everything that I possibly can give them, right? And so, and so my role as a father, that's always meant a lot to me. And so when I take the thing I love in writing, and I take the other thing that I love, my children, and the role that I have in their life as their father, and I can blend those two things together, and I oftentimes have. And so my children, yeah, they're present in a lot of the things that I write, and they're older now, but and they're living their own lives and they're doing their own things, which is fantastic. But those moments, that role that I play as a father, it's extremely meaningful. But I do think it stems back to my childhood in terms of how I emotionally connect with being a father.
One thing that I love is, and this, we kind of touched on this earlier too, is just authenticity, and being able to talk about being a father and a role model, but also being able to talk about a hooker or some other raunchy experience. What I love about that is it's so real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a father, but I also think about this other stuff too. And for some reason, society kind of tells us not to mix those two worlds,
Yeah.
you're one or the other.
Yeah.
But to keep it real it's all kind of part of life.
I remember reading Jack Kerouac or Charles Bukowski for the first time, and I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, these guys, wow, they write what I think, and it's and so, but there were a couple of hurdles that I had to overcome. One was, there are certain topics that are off the table for a lot of people. I won't write about these things. I won't speak about these things. These are either private things or they're just off the table. And, I had to reach that point as a person, but also as a writer where, it was up to me as to what I shared, not only with friends or family about who and what I am, but especially when I sit down to actually put pen to paper, and then the idea of sharing that with a larger audience. I had to come to terms with what I would share versus what I might not share. And I think as I have grown, not only as a man, but as a writer, I'm more apt to share more now,
Yeah.
We only have one go at this life. And so I love to experience all that I can, but and it's certain things move me and I write about them. And, what other people think of me or the things that I write, it matters less and less and less as time goes on. And so you talk about authenticity, I feel like I'm at a point in life where I have a really good sense as to who I am, not only as a man, but I feel as though I have an authentic sense as to who I am as a writer, and so it's a hell of a ride.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Black Raspberry. I remember 15, puberty and the pack dances, the acne and the algebra. I remember the taste of whiskey in the backwoods behind our house. Back then, we had The Clash, Pink Floyd, Parachute Pants. We had thin ties and parents who both worked 9 to 5. I remember Dad leaving, his empty chair at the dinner table, his empty seat at my football games, and I remember saying, "Who the fuck cares?" for the first time ever. Ma worked too much back then, twice a day to feed three. But I can still taste those Friday night Bud Light campfires in the woods with friends and the taste of Becky's tongue swirling around in my mouth. I remember those thoughts of me not being able to remember me the day before. Now I know it's that adolescent juvenile pride walking around with splotchy patches of stubble on my chin. Silly. I remember 25 too, like the full-grown beard, the college books, Dad's death, the advanced vocabulary, professionalism, the taste of real money in my pocket. Ma looked 30 years older than she did just 10 years prior, and I could taste that too, I suppose. Seagram 7 Southern Comfort, the Ziploc baggies are looking to forget something. I remember those dark hallways of always wanting more, always on the move, always missing the mark. I was yet to be a real man, and I knew it back then. Then 35, and the I do promises made, the new house, the jewelry box, flashy cars, and I remember the new debt pushing it all along. Ma would visit from time to time, stories of Dad would surface from time to time, but that was all business back then. IRAs, retirement funds, flashy pearls, and faraway trips just to say we went someplace. I remember measuring everything I had up to what you had. Always falling short somewhere along the way. That was 35. And yet somewhere between the cracks in the concrete and the road that I was paving, there were children, 2 of them, both girls. Then came 45. Not long ago. Splitting everything in half, trying to keep this boat afloat, trying to be in 2 places at once. Impossible. But then the youngest called, 15 at the time, couple months ago. Dreadlocks, long legs, torn jeans, and a memory much wiser than mine. And she recalled the raspberry ice cream cones and the times driving in my truck, purple drips dripping down her arm, us laughing. She went on to remember the cookouts, the family birthdays, and the time that I taught her to lick her cone from the side. Lick it like this, I'd say, and that way it won't drip. For 20 minutes, she shared her 15-year-old self with my hopes for 55, and I allowed myself to slip for that one moment into the decades that had me begging for more whiskey, less algebra, and more toys. And now she knows, like I knew then, the joys of Bud Light campfires with friends, the backwoods. But she still remembers licking black raspberry cones with me, and I still enjoy walking in the first pair of shoes I ever bought for her.
Love was another one that we kind of didn't, I don't know that we touched on specifically.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of love. Like you were talking earlier about Purple and Ass. Like there's that kind of lustful love, right? There's the love that I have for my children. There's the love that I have for my wife. But then there's the love I have for my favorite pen, you know? And so it's like I recognize that love has many different faces and many different feelings and emotions associated with love. So, you know, when I sit down to write poetry, particularly, I might focus in on that one emotion of love, and I might have like an event that really tries to push forward the love of a certain object or person or situation, and you know, I really try to drive that. But
I like the way you put that too, because like I don't know that people talk about this often, but like there are different types of love.
Yeah.
The love I have for my daughter can be
Yeah.
very different than the love I have for another person, or
Yeah.
a family member, you know.
I feel like love has different levels. The love has different. It's all love, but the love I have for different things kind of it registers within me on different levels. It seems,
Yeah.
and trying to capture those different levels. It's interesting. I try never to use the word love in something that I write. It might be a love poem, but I try to abandon using the word love. And I try to show the love rather than to tell this is love. I try to show it through different situations or different actions and whatnot. So
Yeah, like that raspberry ice cream, like that's
Yeah.
it right there.
yeah, right. You know, like You get your kid dripping sticky shit all over, right? And like, it's like, I love you so much. I'm going to show you a secret that my mother showed me when I was 7 years old. Lick it from the side, it won't drip all over you, right? So you're exactly right, man. I mean, it's, and if nothing else, man, we were talking earlier about family and kind of legacy. My dad's been gone for 27 plus years, and I miss him tremendously. And it's like, I don't have $1 million, probably never will have $1 million. So what I leave, my legacy, it probably won't come in the form of a huge bank account somewhere. But, I will have shared my heart and my love through the written word, and that will remain. And that will always be there. And that's pretty awesome, if you ask me. Like, that's what I'm all about. $1 million would be nice too, but but yeah. So the idea of taking all that time to put these things together, and then to see it come full circle and actually go to print, like it's almost like completing the job, getting it done. So it's a good feeling.